Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kingdom Wealth Building Strategies. Normally at 12, but we did undergo a few technical difficulties, but it was imperative and prudent that we make it happen and at all costs make sure that we do broadcast. We have some good content as always, and I'm excited about what's going to happen on today on Kingdom Wealth Building Strategies. What I need you to do, I need you to go ahead and start to like, tag, and share. Like, tag, and share. If you're watching on the app, welcome. You can actually share it right from the app and just encourage people to come on and watch the broadcast. If you're watching from YouTube, go ahead, like, tag, and share. Make sure you turn on your notifications so that when we come on, you get notified. Tag some names of people who want to get wealthy. And because this is going to be the show that's going to bless them. If you're watching on Facebook, again, turn on your notifications so that when we go live, you are notified. Like, tag, and share. And then if you're watching on Roku, if you're watching on Amazon TV, if you're watching on Apple TV, welcome. Make sure you change the channel so that you don't, not change, make sure you save the channel so that you don't have an issue when we come in. I'm excited. I'm going to bring in our co host who has graduated. He graduated on this end of it, but we had to start him on the kiddie course. Really wasn't a kiddie course.
Oh man. Listen, it was work in extra progress.
Work
Uh,
in
it, it,
extra progress.
I don't know the level of patience you have, Bishop. God bless your soul, because I was getting mad at myself.
The one that I kept saying, just make contact. It don't matter where it
Right.
goes.
That's how you know it's bad. Oh
I'm
man.
like, good job. And you're like, no. Don't try this psychological reverse thing with me.
You're
but
right.
no, but no, it was a fun time. But on this show, you did graduate from being a guest to actual co-host and really being responsible as you did last time, helping to introduce us to individuals that will really play a major role in us building wealth. This is Kingdom Wealth Building Strategies. And I'm just excited about what you have already helped to bring to the table and what you're going to bring to the table today. We are behind. We normally are at 12 o'clock, but we thank you for your patience. Some of you have this lunch break and you look forward to it because it's literally a power lunch. So without further ado, let's hear from Jason. Jason, how you doing, man?
Bishop, thank you again. It was great to actually connect and really just start building on new opportunities, new different activities, and just have a one-on-one conversation with you in person. That was amazing. So I thank you for that opportunity. But today, yes, just to keep the momentum going, we are going to take this power hour, get straight to the point. I have a special guest. And it's personal to me because this is someone that's personal in my life. This is a brother, a family member, and someone that really I confide in when it comes to understanding on a large scale what is happening in our society and what's really happening in that financial realm. So, without further ado, I really want to bring to the stage my brother Gavin.
Gavin, how are you, sir? Hold on. We got you covered. Just give us a moment. All right, here we go. Gavin is on. And this is actually Gavin Matthews. So this is your blood brother. Jason is
Yep.
so he's just so what is the word? I can't get it. I can't get it. But anyway, he's so friendly. He's so friendly that when he says brothers, you don't know what to expect. It could be just a
Right.
college brother, can be a work brother. But when I saw
So
the
this is
last
this
name
is
and I saw the face,
yep.
this is blood.
Hmm.
Welcome,
Yes, sir.
welcome. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How about yourselves?
I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm alive. So, Jason,
Understand that. I understand that one.
you started to tell us why you brought him in. Give us a little bit more, and then let Gavin go ahead and take over.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I thought this would have been a great conversation was just pretty much based off of us having one of our casual conversations last weekend, and really just understanding what's going on in the economics of today's society with all the chaos and how to channel through it, what to expect in the future. And I was just like, hold on, hold on, hold on. Like, I'm getting lots of gems in this one conversation of many I have
Mm,
on a weekly basis. And this is just something that I think would just be such a powerful tool to add to this realm that we're building out when it comes to wealth building. Really
mm.
just understanding where the money is flowing, how it's affecting us, and what are the points of entry or lack of that is causing individuals in our position to stay in this position and not feel as though it's possible to see the other side of the financial world, that is glorified and promoted and just seems like an impossible feat.
So you're saying we're about to hear from a person who not only is in the industry, the financial industry, but he has sat at the tables and been in the presence of those who
Yes,
has major effects, if not write the rules for the financial industry and what's going on.
yes.
So, all right, let's go. Matt, Gavin, how are you now? I asked you in the interview, the connection yesterday. I asked you
Mhm.
three main questions. We're gonna go right there. Having had a seat at the table with major power players from the industry side, and then major rule setters from the regulators side. So you got two sides that you're going to speak from. What is the are the rules? This is the question. Are the
Okay.
rules set against us as Black and Brown community in wealth building, or all the rules happen to not be for us and then not updated? It's a little bit of a twist,
I
um,
understand the question.
because on one side, is it against us? Like, in other words, were the rules written to make sure that the Black and Brown community never got up? Or was the rules more so written exclusively for the betterment of, our counterparts? I say
Okay.
that nicely.
So, where I'd like to start from actually is actually back in history because you brought up a good point. Whereas, have the rules not been updated, or are there a lack thereof rules that are to help marginalized communities, Black communities, Latinx communities? And so, I'd like to start way back, right after World War II, when people were coming back from war. There were these things called GI Bills, wherein a lot of veterans that were coming from the war were able to get mortgages, not just for college, but for homes as well. So they were able to move into suburbs and get homes and were able to establish equity. Unfortunately, during those times, there was still segregation in the United States. So there was this practice going on called redlining. So red line districting, wherein Black Americans or people of color couldn't go into the same communities and get the same houses as their white counterparts. So what was happening was there was a kind of divergence in who was able to access the best services from their community and neighborhoods. Because a lot of these, obviously, these all white neighborhoods, they had more funding. So better schools, better utilities, better infrastructure. Whereas the Black and marginalized communities, they were put more into Section 8 housing as opposed to getting those loans to get their own home. So instead of being able to own their own equity, they were adding to the equity of somebody else. Fast
Wow.
forward, exactly. So it originally it started as a race thing. Now, fast forward 50, 60 years, these same redlining districts, it's no longer focused around racial minorities. It's as much. However, you can't really take away that history because when
The system was built on top of that.
100%. So that's where the concept of generational wealth comes into prominence, because a lot of these people from the GI Bill that were able to get homes and buy homes and keep homes were able to, if not pass them to their children, if they were to sell them, that equity would go to their children. Whereas
Mm.
in minority communities, they were renting, they were in Section 8 housing, so their parents didn't necessarily have anything to pass on to their kids.
So I want
And
to
then,
go back for a second. Hold on, before
Yeah.
you even
yes,
say
sorry, I know I'm
anything.
That's deep. It's such a subtle, it's such a subtle habitual cultural way of living that has such a large impact
Mhm,
on the actual after effects of the families to come
mhm,
for those specific communities.
mhm,
And Jason, you're right, because I thought when he said let's go back in history, I thought he was going to go back to slavery.
Yeah.
mhm,
He didn't even go to slavery. He
mhm,
went, a little closer in the timeline and said, let's go to the GI Bill, where you have veterans coming back from World War II. When
mhm,
you're in a world war, it's almost like a global pandemic. Nobody's looking almost to have a guaranteed survival. So everybody's out fighting united cause. Okay, so when they come
mhm,
back, we're coming back to quote quote the Great Depression. We're coming back to nothing almost. Now we got to kind of rebuild. So in rebuilding, you have the red line districting, is what you're saying. On one
mhm,
side of that line, hey, we're not just going to do the college thing, but we're going to front them money, give them credit, let them buy their homes.
mhm,
And then on the other side of the line, we're gonna give them homes, but we're not going to let them buy it. We're gonna house them, but we're
yes.
not going to let them buy it. So we're going to put them in Section 8 housing. We're going to put them in project housing. We're going to put them in a low income community. But at this point, we were almost at a level where everything, of course, outside of the rich, everything was leveled. So they reset that we can't not be on the same level. So we're going to put
And
Yeah.
on one side, we're going to give them credit, but on the other side, we're just going to take care of them, but we're not going to give them credit. And that difference, that
mhm,
difference sets a pattern of, as you said, generational wealth and generational poverty. One will
mhm,
be dependent on the other. One will get an inheritance of equity, and the other will get an inheritance of what?
debt, literally debt, because without
Literally
equity,
dead.
it becomes debt. So, and the effect of that can actually be seen when you look at just general cities. That's why the south side of a lot of cities are more low income or and considered at risk communities, because those were the effects of those red line districting. That's why there's typically like set lines where you can see a prosperous neighborhood, and then across the bridge are neighborhoods that need more resources. This is a direct effect of that.
What's scary is because we both went to the same school, Bishop, is immediately outside of that institution,
Mhm,
you hopped across the street and there was poverty. Like it wasn't even something that was too far away. And now you start to even see the stretch with gentrification happening,
mhm,
where it's not even those communities that you can even afford to stay in anymore. So when it comes to the Section 8, the renting aspect, there is just no control. It's just, if you are to be removed, we're going to make it so financially unbearable that you have no choice.
Yeah, and for instance, just to add to Jason's point, for at a point in time, we lived in the same apartment, and within one like signing lease year, they jumped the rent 50%.
Yay!
Families that people that have families and have kids and have other bills that they need to spend on, they can't afford that 50% jump. So essentially, what that is forcing them to leave. It's that sort of
But I just got to, and there's so much that I want to get out of this. I'm not going to get lost, but I
okay.
really do have to go back a little bit. And
Hmm.
basically, you know how you sense something but you don't have the physical evidence, you don't have the physical proof to confirm
Yes.
that what you're sensing is right, is real, you know. So if we always had that, don't go across the tracks, you know, don't go past this block because life is good over here, across the tracks is bad, or life is bad over here, but across the tracks. Even so much that sometimes you go into the nicer communities and it's like, what are you doing here? It's
Yes.
it's
So
it's it's
for
not coincidental. That's the point that I'm
no,
making. It's not
yeah,
coincidental. It's not just, oh wow. No, what we have sensed and what has appeared to be a coincidence is actually a strategy that is still in effect. Is that what you're telling me?
yeah. So essentially, on that aspect, I'll hit this from two prongs. When you mentioned before that it's not a coincidence that across the tracks is kind of seen as a negative standpoint. It's for both sides, at least back in the day, because with homeowner associations, you couldn't sell even if a black person could afford a house in those better neighborhoods. You couldn't really sell to them. Real estate like realtors would put their licenses at risk if they were to sell a black person a home in a white community. So it created those solid lines. And so within that, like I was saying, fast forward 50, 60 years now, they're no longer focusing on race necessarily, but they're treating those areas the same. So,
So it's no longer about race per
mhm,
se, but the areas it's already marked. And
yes,
it's already been giving a territory. So it's not about race. It's now just about the quote low income community, and it has been established that this is
yes.
a low income community by the redlining district, and then generationally, and so now it's just no, this is low income. Now talk
Yeah,
about that because I know where you're going.
yes, and so I want to touch upon that as well. Is just that a lot of people think that this happened a lot more in the past than it did, a lot further back than it really did. This is one or two generations, so it's like for people to believe that people can just recover from that so quickly, it doesn't really make that much sense. And so within that, these laws, by or not even necessarily laws, but regulations that credit bureaus set, when you're in those redlined areas you're considered a credit risk just off the bat automatically. So it's you're going to be eligible for much higher rates rather than the rates of your neighbor across the bridge. Um, Even if you per se have somewhat of credit already, they're going to be in a better position than you just from the get go. You're already at a disadvantage.
Pause.
Uh,
So
yeah.
because they're in a red line district labeled low income
Mm-hmm.
on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
The credit regulators said
Mm-hmm.
this neighborhood, okay, we're
Mm-hmm.
putting the whole neighborhood as a credit risk. So
Yes. I, yeah.
if Junebug personally has good credit, he's
Mm-hmm.
already at a disadvantage because of where he lived, not how he lived, than
Yes.
Tommy across the street in a better community. Tommy has worse credit than Junebug, but because
Mm-hmm.
Junebug is living in what they considered and what they have labeled on purpose a low income red line district community,
Mm-hmm.
he's already at a disadvantage.
Yes, that's how it works. So it's not necessarily that you can't get a loan within those low income communities, but the rates that you have to borrow from are just going to be higher, which a lot of
Now, how
people.
does that make sense though? Hold on. I'm sorry. How does that, if you label a community low income,
Mhm.
wouldn't it make sense to say we have to do more for them? No, we're going to label you low income and we're going to increase your interest rate to make it more expensive for you to get credit because we've called you low income.
Yes, because at the end of the day, these people, these banks, these creditors, they're here to make money. So if they consider something as high risk, they're going to push those interest rates up. And so those variables that go into calculating if they're high risk or not, they happen to be negatively affecting marginalized communities. And so even if they're saying it's not about race, not about this anymore, because it was once upon a time, it's now these low income relatives of the people that were marginalized in the past because of their race that are being affected by it now.
So
So
one side
it's
inherited
like
equity and the other side inherited debt and poverty.
so
Yes.
it's not about race. It's about whether or not your generation started on the equity side or the credit side. So if
And that part is at race.
right,
So it's not
right.
about race.
So
It's
sad. Yeah.
about if you were on the right side of the sun, I suppose.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So now, from that perspective,
Hmm.
growing up in that community,
Hmm.
when you go to apply for credit, without looking at your credit, just looking at your address has a positive or negative effect on your credit. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. That's how it is.
Okay. So this is not a coincidence. This is not, oh, you just happen. No, this is purpose. So if this is purposed,
Hmm.
is it, before I even ask what the agenda, because that's obvious, let's ask what's not obvious. How do we overcome it?
So the way to overcome it, it's just a long and hard process. Realistically, the odds are stacked up against you in that situation. The best way is to like move within the credit system and find a way to get equity. That is the most
How?
important.
So
You have.
practically, you're
Mhm.
talking to somebody that's in this, because, oh, jeez. Let me, side quick question. Side quick
Mhm.
question.
Revamp, U-turn, pull up to the stoplight.
Pull it to the stoplight, okay? So is it just that they, the writers of this rules, culture, hated us and hate us so much that they don't want to see us prosper? Or is it that they need us to stay poor so that they can continue to build wealth on our backs?
Ooh.
So that's a deep conversation. That's an hour-long conversation in and of itself.
Sounds like another
That's,
show. You hear me, Bishop?
I
You're
can.
coming
That's
back.
gonna be right. I'm gonna be honest. But it's like it's not, and the thing about it is, it's not such a simple issue because these rules have been in place for so long. It's and now there's a whole lot of social things going on, but it's so complex that no one has really been able to really penetrate and say this is a definitive answer. The only definitive answer that people have when building credit or trying to build a better value of life is to be able to gain equity. It's to be able to buy and own something to then be to hopefully have it appreciate and sell, or to work within credit itself. So you go through and you use those high interest rates in order to build your credit a little bit more and then better your situation. But it's significantly harder. So, for instance, I believe I mentioned this to you before in our precursor conversation. It's easier for a foreign national to come to America and get a loan than it is an African American in a lower income neighborhood, because these people are coming over with financial history, which a lot of lower income neighborhoods don't necessarily have, or don't necessarily have a positive credit history. A lot of them have credit that has gone awry, which there are still ways to fix that. But like I mentioned before, it's just going to be a long and arduous process to be able to do it. It's
So let me,
working within the confines of their rules to help benefit you.
but the challenge, because I guess I'm trying to look for the somewhat positivity of it. But if we go back to the beginning, they needed us, per se, to
Hmm.
to get ahead. They needed, America is rich basically because of slavery, right?
Yes.
They
Yeah.
needed us to build, to run, and to operate for them for free,
Hmm.
right? And
Mhm.
then now we've inherited the title of being lazy. We've inherited the title of being unprofessional and barbaric and all these other things, whereas they inherited wealth. So they great grandfathers left them equity, houses, businesses, land, money, whereas our great grandfathers left us a painful experience, you know, because they didn't have a choice. So when we come back now and we say, okay, where are we? No, I guess my question or my thought process is maybe they needed us, and from needing us, maybe they still need us because if the bank is going to give them a better credit interest rate, then the bank is going to make more money off of us, and even in their reluctancy to give us credit. So for
Mhm.
us that get credit, we got to pay more because we're paying for the banker and his credit. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I guess so you're saying long, which is I understand a process, I should understand. I just wanted to pause and tell the Shamikas and the Taekwons and the Junebugs. First of all, hang in there. Don't give up. You're not lazy. You're not stupid. You're not just this community of derelicts. Okay. This is something that we will get through, and others have gotten through, but it's not going to be easy because it wasn't for us to get through. It was for us
Mhm.
to stay under, it was for us to stay bound. So we have to now swim against the current. We have to move
Exactly.
against the forces. It's not on our side, but it's not impossible. So it may take us longer. It may cost us more, but don't give up. It's the
Now,
hope. Go ahead.
now, Bishop, I really want to just sprinkle this in there because Gavin pretty much focused on economics and finance, right? So the overall understanding of what money does and how money works. So to a certain degree, Gavin, just based on your comfort zone of what are avenues, right, based on the system in place here in the United States or internationally, what are some great investment tools or options that should be normal conversations where people should say, all right, if I have $200, I should put it here, and in 5 or 10 years, this will grow to 20,000
Well,
or
so 200 to 20,000 in 5 to 10 years isn't really realistic in terms of an investment. What I would say, my most beneficial advice to people that seem to be in a negative low income position is find a way to be able to work and buy a house. Find a way to be able to stabilize your credit in order to buy a house. Because when you own that property and own that house, you own equity and you own stability. You know what I'm saying? So
You
it's more
own
so
stability.
you own
I love
stability.
that.
You're not at the threat of being homeless because you don't have rents to pay. Because you own that house. You have to pay your taxes on that house, but you have somewhere to live, which frees up like I think something that people really downplay is how much stability can bring forth success. Because you can free your mind to do what you need to do, how you need to do
mm,
it, without
I love
worrying about
it.
am I going to be homeless or is my family going to be homeless next week? You
Wait a
know,
minute.
it,
Hold
it
on.
brings you
Pause for
away
a
from the
second.
day-to-day
Hold on.
living and allows you to go towards the future.
Hold on. You said something powerful. You said, I don't know if people understand how important stability plays in success. And
Hmm.
then you went to say, because it frees your mind. When you are not worried about getting evicted, kicked out, rent increasing, spiking, you know what I'm saying? And you're able to know, I have a place to lay my head.
Hmm.
Now, what else can I do? I agree with you. I agree with you on that 100%.
Hmm.
Okay, so you said, Jason asked, what do we do? What's the first step? First step is buy a house because you're buying equity and you're buying into stability.
That should be the end goal. The first step would be to work within that negative credit industry to build that credit. because no matter what, you're going to need credit. Like if you want to be able to grow, unless you're trying to work to have enough to save, which sometimes isn't necessarily possible within your situation. You need to be able to work within the credit industry. And one of the quick things that not quick things, but one of the most important things that people need to do, a lot of people don't know, is that the credit bureau can be wrong a lot of the time. So things could be negatively affecting your credit that aren't necessarily true, that you don't even know about because you haven't requested your credit report. Like people need to start requesting their credit report and looking at what's negatively affecting their credit and how they can better build their credit. Because the end goal should be to own a house, and then you can go forth with owning a business, or even if you want to rent a space to have a business, I always recommend buying a space for business, or having you and your family come together in order to buy a building so you can have a business, have some form of income that's not dependent on another person. Because like I mentioned before, like when me and Jason lived in the same apartment, rent increased 50% in one signing. If I'm a person with a family, I have kids that I need to feed and stuff like that, and I'm already living that week to week lifestyle, how am I going to afford that? And then your life is completely uprooted. And then on top of that, you don't know if your job is secure because you don't own your own building. Even if you have your own business, if
Woo!
someone comes to you and says rent is increased by $1,300 this month because someone else offered me that money, you can't afford that. What are you going to do? That's what
So
happens too.
even if you own your business, you don't necessarily have stability if you don't own the building out of which you're operating that business.
100%. Ownership is key to equity.
And as a simple staple to show you the power of the ownership, McDonald's isn't a successful business because it runs a service that sells fire burgers. Their burgers are subpar. Their fries are. They
Their
are
fries are
a
plastic
trillion-dollar business at this point,
because of what?
right? Real estate, the ownership of real estate,
Hmm.
and being able to own it in key locations
Hmm.
that could get them the user base that they need to sustain that financial generation that they're able to accrue and control their overhead for their business expenses year after year.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm saying. That's why a lot of
And they're
times,
getting
especially
money hand
now in
over fist
Boston.
because they
Yep.
got the franchise. So you're buying into their franchise, and then you have
Yep.
to rent from them the bit. So they're making money from the real estate, then they're
Hmm.
making money from the products that they sell you, so you can sell. Okay, McDonald's. Okay,
Yes, but just
so
to
Gavin, go
okay,
ahead.
yes. Oh, I was just gonna exacerbate on the point that I was making, just with an example of Boston again. For instance, there were so many, and it's so sad to say, but there were so many privately or privately owned businesses in Boston, just small business owners, that, especially in Roxbury, I'm sure Jason's familiar.
Yep.
Roxbury had a lot of small business owners, and then throughout the years, you could see they were all losing their spaces, because they didn't own the store, the land itself. They were losing all their spaces to these corporate entities moving in. And although they'll name the street, or like they named this bus stop Nubian Square, they moved all of the black businesses out. They named it Nubian Square and then move all the black people out and put in all these corporate headed businesses. So all these small businesses that had these people that were trying to make better of their life no longer have a space to do it. Not because their business was necessarily failing, but because they can't afford a 100% hiking in rent.
And
And
that is facts. Because even in churches that rent their buildings, to have service, I've seen churches had to move because their 10-year lease went up, and the lease was starting at $2,000 a month. And by the time the lease is ending, the lease is at $5,000 a month.
Mhm.
you know I so let me backtrack a bit, because I want to give more solutions than we give problems. But what I
Okay.
wanted to initially do was to validate the problem. I wanted to
Mhm.
make sure that our communities understood that you are not a loser. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You are not low income. That's the label that's been given the community, and you're in a system that is working against you. Okay, we've established that.
Hmm.
You said solution was start building credit, right? Start
Yes.
navigating through the credit industry.
Hmm.
Jason has played a very good role in bringing us people that we can work with to help us build credit. But a part of Jason's four people that we had to get to know and become friends with, a banker, a credit specialist, a real estate agent. I don't know what the fourth person was. What's the fourth person?
So you had
Credit specialist.
the credit specialist, the lender, real estate agent, and well, for real estate transaction and attorney. But I don't think it. I don't think it was that. I'm going blank with that. We're gonna have to roll it back. That's why we got the saved episodes, Bishop.
We got to go back and rewatch what we taught.
Yes,
But at
yes.
least get the three. Get the three. And so you now, what do you see? Two quick questions and then I'll let you go. First question is practically. I
Hmm.
know you said get a house. I know you said build your credit.
Hmm.
Are there some very practical um, steps that we can take to
Hmm.
start digging ourselves out? Jason said, you got $200. What do we do with that? We have $200 extra in our income that's not committed to our life of eating, driving, and housing. So we have $200 in discretionary income every time we get paid, whether it's weekly or every other week. What do we do with that? In our first step to try to get from under this and work through this and get on top.
Okay, so my thing is before you start focusing on making money, make sure you can keep money. So, like I mentioned before, go and get a credit report from your credit bureau to make sure that no one's holding like a lien on anything that you own or anything like that. Because if the IRS starts coming for you, that $200 isn't going to be adding up to much. And that credit, the what you can do with credit is a lot more beneficial than what you can do with that $200. But with that $200, I'd say save it. I'd say there are definitely investments that you can make. I wouldn't necessarily use risky investments like investing in the stock market, because the stock market, unless you actually understand it, can be very risky. As a lot of people found out with Dogecoin very recently, it can be very risky if you're just looking at graphs and trying to do guesswork. So I'd say is save the money and try and find something that you're good at and invest the money in yourself. Don't invest the money in someone else at first. Invest it in yourself. And then when you have a surplus amount of liquid income, then you can start investing in other people. That's what stocks are. Stocks are you investing in the success of other businesses or other companies. So start investing in yourself first. Start investing in things that you see, like abilities or skills that you see that you can have, that you can grace to the world. Like for instance, with myself personally, after the pandemic happened, a lot of stuff happened during the pandemic, and I found a secondary source of income as a vocal actor. So what that means is I took some money that I'd saved, I got myself a good microphone, got myself some good soundproofing, and then I started using skills that I had in order to make income. Start generating other forms of revenue through yourself, and don't try to focus on making money from other people yet.
Woo! Okay, first of all, who is your mother? Like, who
An
are you
amazing
people?
woman.
Okay, she should have been blessed beyond measure for Mother's Day. You have Jason. Now, are there any other siblings, or is it just you two?
Oh no, we got sisters and
Yeah.
some additional brothers. Yes.
I'm telling you, just from meeting you two, your level of positivity, groundness, articulation, and education is it's a testament that you don't have to stay stuck. that
Yes.
we can make it. Just your verbiage, you know. I'm just blown away. I'm like, I'm writing. I got so many notes, and I'm like, when I'm recording, I can always go back and record. I'm writing like, hold on, don't leave me. I'm like, wait a minute. I can just tell y'all to come over for dinner and pick your brain. Okay. So you said invest in yourself.
Hmm.
Every one of us has I call it a talent, and then we
Hmm.
have giftings. For me, giftings is what God gives you to bless the world to a certain extent for free. It's a gift. Your talent is what God gives you to self-sustain and build wealth, right? However you want to look at it. Look at your talents and your gifts.
Hmm.
See what you're naturally gifted in or naturally talented in, and start investing there, right?
Yes.
Invest in you. That is the most positive and encouraging investing tool that I've heard from a professional. Like, I've said it, but I'm the preacher. But you've said it, and you're educated. you know, invest in yourself and find what you like to do and build from there. Because how many of us are working on jobs that we hate?
Hmm.
Doing what we hate. And when you do what you hate, you're not going to do it at your best, but you're doing it because you got to pay bills, you got to cover your house. No, find what you love to do, because that's going to be, you're going to bring your best self to it. You're going to be most creative, you're going to be most innovative. You're going to, give 110% over, and then monetize it. Invest in yourself, find it what it is that you like, then carve out that skill set, master it, monetize it by investing in it. I love that. All right, so we got that extra income coming in. We're gonna go check our credit report. We're gonna listen to your brother, get a credit specialist. Sam is
Hmm.
good. Sam, the girl, is good. I love her. Call up Sam. Sam, let's find out that I don't have no liens, that I don't owe somebody that I really don't owe. Let's work on that part. And then now that I found out who I owe or who I don't owe, I'm now generating more income than just doing stuff that I love to do. Okay. Now what's next? You gave us two steps. Give us at least one more, and then you can tell them call you with a fee.
Okay, so I'd say work with Sam some more. Now that you know what's wrong with your credit, work on building it and fixing it, you know? And so it all depends on what the end goal of the individual person is, because a lot of people don't want to be business owners, which is fine. If you don't want to own your own business, if you like being an employee, it's completely fine. I understand. Find a source of stability though. That would be so get your credit, and then fix the credit, find a source of stability, whether that is a job that a contracted job, because subcontracting, it's awesome if you own your own business, but if you're working for somebody else and they can fire you the next day, that's not a form of stability. If you
Yeah.
do that for a year, you're going to get paid. You can work for that year and then focus on other ways to make money. Like I can't stress stability enough, because after you're finished living day to day, you can start living into the future. But if
Mm.
you day to day, you can't
Mm.
continue into the
Mm.
This is the church stank
Mm.
face. I don't know if y'all got this, but when we do this
Woo!
and we're fanning it, that means it was so stink. uh, Jay said, "You have not won, Gavin, have you? You didn't want him up
Listen, he drops some bombs. Let me tell you, Bishop. Every time we connect, I love it.
Galvin's like, who is this person called the bishop? And is he really a bishop, or is he an absolute clown?
Listen, I told him, Bishop, you are a character. Let me tell you. I told him it's strong, but he can handle it.
He can handle it because he's trying to
Yes.
say, Gavin is so focused, and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. But he's pulling through. And the reason why I do that, it is strategic, because
Mhm.
Galvin, you are such a wealth of information that if I don't kind of give us a chance to breathe and
Oh
process,
yeah, I understand.
our community will like, yeah, that's nice for them. They're educated. I
Hmm.
can't do that. I'm stuck where I'm at. I'm going to be stuck. You know, and I'm trying to
Hey, we
get them to
came from
realize that it's doable.
Me and Jay didn't come from much, Bishop. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, me and
Yeah.
Jay didn't come
Yeah.
from much.
No,
Yeah.
but well, see, coming from much and being smart are two separate things. They
Mm.
have
Mm,
convinced us that we're not smart. You
mm,
guys, you might have come from the sea, but you guys are smart. So somebody may look and say, oh, they're smart. They can navigate. No, it's not just being smart. Sometimes it's just knowing that it can be done and you see something that you can run after. So I'm lightening it up a little bit because I just want to make sure
mhm,
from my agenda, our community has hope. Because once you have hope, you'll find a way. But when you have
mhm.
no hope, now you have depression and suppression, and you're not moving because you feel like no matter what I do, I'll never get ahead. The system is rigged against me.
Yeah.
But we can override this system. And you've given us some keen insight on how to do that. Very keen. I guess my last question, and then Jason, you can give your final words, and Gavin, we'll go back to you just to give whatever you want to give us to make sure we take away. And I may not come back, whatever. But and then we set up to next week. Um, so it is doable. It can be done with your experience at sitting at both tables, the side of the table of the industry, the financial industry, the
Mhm.
side of the table of those who make the rules for the financial industry. That's key to know that you're not just a power broker, that, okay, yeah, we know how to work the system, but now
Yeah.
you have exposure to those who actually are maintaining, shaping, and continuing to form the system.
Yeah.
What do you see coming down the line that we have to brace ourselves? And if we properly align ourselves, we can
Mm.
benefit or not align ourselves and even be more devastated.
So that's something that Jason asked me. He asked me that to answer, and my answer for him was that the time that we're in right now is atypical. Because of the pandemic, everything is switched up right now. Nothing makes standardized economic sense in terms of just the regular flow of money. So something that I would advise of is, like I said, not necessarily save, but don't go crazy investing in things that you don't know what you're investing in. Because I know that it might look very enticing because things are going up and down sporadically, which is a nightmare for me. It's a dream for a lot of people, but it's a nightmare for me because I can't make as many predictions as I would like to. But globally, with the globally, everybody's in so much debt that it's terrifying in terms of not only just the countries themselves, but the citizens as well. So I would say is get a handle on your debt. A lot of
Pause
people
for a
don't.
second. Hold on. Hold on.
Mm.
Hmm.
You said globally, so I'm thinking people, but then you threw something in there. You said
Hmm.
people as well, which implicates that when you're talking globally, you're talking about countries and governments.
Yes.
So countries and governments themselves are
Hmm.
in so much debt,
Hmm.
plus the residents or the citizens of those countries are in their own personal debt. So there's personal debt, there's corporate debt, and then there is country or governmental debt. Did I
Yeah.
understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
100%. So yeah, so I would for the upcoming time. So a lot of things have been deferred because of the pandemic, but a lot of those regulations are starting to be repealed. A lot of things is starting to go back to status quo as it used to be. And so I would recommend that you make sure that your debt is in a place where you can handle it. You can handle those payments because a lot of the unemployment stuff is going to start cutting off, and a lot of people have been floating on credit, and so those credit bureaus are not just going to erase that. It's just been accumulating. So make sure that you're in a position to be able to pay off your debt, or that you know what your credit is doing right now. Because in the near future, I would imagine, like I said, I tell Jason this all the time. Corona popped up in 3 months and stopped the world. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 months. We heard the first time we heard about Corona was in December. The entire world was shut down in March.
The
So
whole world, literally.
the whole world shut down in March.
In this age of technology,
Mhm.
that's okay to a certain extent in the dark ages. That's okay in the absence of knowledge and technology. But
Mhm.
in technology, when we're sending people to the moon and
Mhm.
we have space shelters, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And it still had the ability to shut us down like a biblical plague. That's
Mhm.
scary. Go ahead.
It's terrifying. So I would just recommend that people make sure that their money is in order and that they're starting to generate revenue again. Because I know a lot of people stopped working. Start finding ways to start generating revenue again, because those credit bureaus are not going to be lenient. They're going to come for, unless the government makes another huge bailout, which they won't, because the amount of money is going to be astronomical.
Out of curiosity, Gavin,
Huh?
from the beginning of 2020, with all the stimulus payout and all of that stuff, just like a general figure, how many trillions of dollars are we talking about just in the U.S. alone that has been accumulated in debt?
So the U.S. debt right now, I think since the past year, it's gained another $6 trillion within debt.
$6 trillion.
Yeah, if
I
to
remember when we was afraid of the fact that we were $1 trillion in debt.
oh
Remember
no,
when
we
that
were
was a
28.
scare?
We were 28 trillion, and now we're
No, I'm talking
34.
about have a nice
Oh,
life. I'm talking about way back when. I'm talking about way back when.
oh, well,
Not yeah, way
was that
before
Clinton? Was it Bill
Clinton.
Clinton?
I think it was
Yeah,
either Bill or who was before Bill? Bush.
yeah. Bush was before Bill.
It was like, oh, we're 1 trillion. We're petering on 1 trillion
Mm-hmm.
forward slash. Now we're 30. What you said? 36.
34, around 34. Yeah,
Enjoy life.
34.
Okay. Thank you,
And
Jason. Any other depressing questions that you want to just
No,
devastate us
no,
with?
no, no. So I had this conversation yesterday with one of my colleagues, my members on my team, just lightly sprinkling over, her assets, what she has a portfolio, and pretty much trying to just gauge what the situation is, and just bouncing the ideas back and forth between what I've had as a conversation with my brother and other colleagues on my team, especially when it pertains to real estate. We're just in a very confusing time where it is more inviting if we can have mini crashes, like a trickle effect of crashes
mhm,
that stack up.
a waterfall,
Because
the
if
waterfall. Yeah.
if things come back to normal, right, and there is no crashes, there's no small little waves, that means that as things are coming back to normal, the things that have been brushed under the rug are still not being addressed. So
Mm-hmm.
based on what I had with my brother, what he brought up to my attention is that if nothing is being addressed, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if nothing is being addressed, hold on. Sorry. If nothing is being addressed and we keep going on the trajectory we're going on, we're not going to have an erased event. Like 2020 is just not going to disappear. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a tsunami of a crash.
Mm-hmm.
So the gauge is to look out for what happens in the next 3 to 4 months, especially here US based, and see if there is some kind of adjustment, because that's going to be an indicator as to whether or not there's going to be a series of small adjustments which the population can bear and
Mm-hmm.
catch up and recollect themselves from, or if there needs to be an awareness of a big adjustment that's going to happen going into next year, and getting your personal financial situation prepared so that you can prepare for that future and it will not affect as many people drastically as, let's say, the 2008 event did.
So what I'm hearing is when you're in war, you're not counting bodies, and you're not counting cities that got bombed, and you're not counting how much money you're spending at war because you're trying to win.
Yeah.
Right now, we're still at war with COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the war ends and we start counting, then we're going to have a whole nother war,
Right.
because it's now the war of rebuilding. Where do we rebuild and how do we rebuild? Gavin, in your place of exposure to both the industry leaders as well as the writers of regulations for
Mm-hmm.
industry, the financial industry, do they have in the works a strategy on how to get the country and then therefore the world back online? And is
Yeah.
there a
So,
strategy on how to deal
uh,
with 2020?
yeah. So the typical thing that they do is they start investing heavily in infrastructure. Because what happens is with large infrastructure investments, they're spending maybe, I think, well, initially it was supposed to be like 2.5 trillion, and then they talked it down to 1.7 trillion. They want people to start having jobs again, and infrastructure is the best way to do that. You can start building out more roads, you can start building out other places or utilities for people to use. But at the end of the day, it's almost superficial or superfluous for a lot of people that aren't within those industries. Like there will always be like a multiplier effect with the money, but the people that are in debt right now because they're borrowing money to just stay alive, they're not going to benefit from that. So it benefits the economy, but not necessarily the individual.
Individual.
Yeah.
So, okay, as in respect to Jason, so okay, one of the regulators' agenda is to let's invest in infrastructure. We're putting money back into our own company, our own land, our own
Mhm.
country. It's good for the country. The money that they can generate, from working it, they can put it back into the market. Okay, good. But you
Mhm.
said that's really only going to benefit, of course, those who's driving, but as far as
Mhm.
the earned income side of it, it's going to benefit those that are in the industry. So
Yeah.
right now, those who are not generating income, as you said, we should start to get back into generating income, might need to look at a trade in some kind of
Mhm.
building, carpentry, road work,
Which is and within those industries, which is why one of my biggest gripes with high schools is the fact that they don't push these things.
Wait. Hold on. Cause Bishop, you know what you're doing. Bishop, you know there's 3 episodes that need to roll out from this. And I know what you're doing. But there has to, because my phone's blowing up. It's been an hour, and Bishop, you know has to be 3 separate episodes. This is gonna keep going on and on, Bishop. Stop it right now. Cause I know what you're doing, and you
See,
know what we want to do.
no more golf for you,
You put
because you.
two Matthews in the same show, Bishop. You allowed this to happen, and you wanted to roll it out for 3 hours straight. No, Bishop, it can't happen this way.
Okay, as they will say, give the benediction, Bishop. Give the benediction. All right, all right. So, as you all can see, as Jason has painfully made obvious, we do need to come back, because we already have a system that's rigged against us. We already have a pandemic that tried to wipe us out. Now we need to prepare for the tsunami. So we have three major things, whereas others may only have one, we have three. So, Jason, as you said, this is definitely a return episode. Um, Inbox us, talk to us, tell us what you got from this and what you want us to get. Um, as a tidbit, listen, go back, rewind, because Jason's not going to let me recap. So we thank you for your time. We thank you for your attention. Gavin, you only have 60 seconds. The most important thing you want us to take away. Jason, you have 14 seconds. The
Well,
most
the
important thing you want us to take away. And
The
then Jason, close us out and tell us what to expect next week. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, so the most important thing is actually just 2 points. Is number one, don't be afraid of credit. It could be a scary thing, but if you can take a grasp and take a hold of it, you can use it to your benefit. And number two, invest in yourself before you look to invest in anyone else, because at the end of the day, those companies can still fail. That stock could still go down, but only you can really dictate how well you can do with something.
Yes.
So I didn't need the whole minute, but those are the two major takeaways that I think people should take away from this conversation.
I love it. That's the first time I heard somebody say invest in themselves, and it wasn't just talking about savings or
Mhm.
insurance, which are important, but I
Right.
love the concept of investing in yourself. And hey, what can I do? And that's what the prophet told the woman whose husband died, unfortunately, left the family in a lot of debt, and they were coming to take the sons to bring them into slavery to work off the debt, which would have left the mother without any type of anything. And the prophet said to her, "What's in your house?" She had oil in her house. And he said, "Go get some pots and sell your oil." The woman became basically the first multi-million-dollar oil. You get it? All right, whatever. Y'all go ahead on. But invest in yourself. That's the point. We have more in our houses than we think. And guess who knows it? They know it. And they're profiting off of what's in our house. So let's switch it up. Jason,
Amen.
I
And and
only
and
took I
just
only took 45 of his remaining
and,
seconds.
and Bishop, just to proceed off of everything that we really covered, really very important. Just getting an understanding of your numbers and just really understanding what can be rectified that you just leave in the air and just leave as a thing to just push back. Preparing yourself financially to start generating income if you've really just been living off of unemployment, and just preparing for being able to salvage your credit and finding strong pillars financially to stand on. I think those are very crucial points as we go through this year, going into next year. And again, you don't have to do this on your own. I reach out and connect with people that want to be with a team, want to have resources that specialize in the things that they're weak at. You can reach out to me. I'm here, the bishop's here. We are here to help everyone start that team so that they can feel more empowered and confident with their future. And that's my closeout, Bishop. That's it.
I have one closeout. Keep watching. Back to you, Jason.
That's it. I'm
What's
done.
next week look like?
Next week, let me finalize that, Bishop, and get back to you. I don't want to put anything out there in the air. I want to make sure it's solid, but I want it to be a jam-packed session, either geared around the legal piece or something geared around a other aspect. I don't want to put anything set in stone yet, Bishop. I don't know what's next week.
Because May was heavy. I don't know how
Yes,
we're gonna top May.
I have no
Gavin,
clue yet.
what a way to end this month. We bless God for you. We appreciate you. Keep moving. I don't even want to devastate the world by asking your age, because to have this much knowledge and you're not 900 years old is already a travesty.
I appreciate you, Bishop. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys on next week. Enjoy your
Sounds good,
Memorial
Bishop.
Day weekend.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Bishop.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye bye.